for today's Which Word of the Day, I am choosing fraternitas, or I like to say fraternitas.
I had that at Altrito once.
Fraternitas, it's a noun, and fraternitas is Latin for brotherhood. And the Fraternitas Saturni specifically means the Brotherhood of Saturn, and it is one of the oldest continuously running magical groups in Germany.
Oh.
And they study esotericism, mysticism, and magic in the cosmic sense. The group formed in 1926 after divorcing themselves from Aleister Crowley. Ooh. While they respected him as a teacher, they stopped all contact with him because they wanted to do their own thing. Emphasis of the Fraternitas Saturni lies more on astrological and Luciferian teachings rather than Kabbalah and Tarot, compared to other Western magical orders founded in the early 20th century.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
Can you hear the words of the witches? Yeah, the words of the witches.
Welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published lore of the Charmed universe.
In this night and in this hour, we call upon our fanboy power, bringing education and stupefaction to all of you.
Together, we will use our knowledge and reverence abundantly, but also find ourselves sassy and delightful.
Which is why we will truly be charmed.
So here we are, spellworders. This is Words of the Witches, episode 125. And I am Kevin, your resident Charmed resource.
And I'm Sean. I just love Supernatural.
Yeah, we're back after a little break. We had a week hiatus. And so we're back to talk about this book.
Yes.
But before we do that, we had the PS4 poll last week about Febois fashion. How do you think this went?
I said the 5-year-old art show outfit. But I don't know. I think more people probably hate the Cinderella outfit, like you two.
Okay, well, let us see. I had a write-in, too, that I want to read the write-in first. They didn't write in a new thing, but they gave me a message about one of them. This is from Michael Cole. Didn't he used to listen to Brunch with the Hallowells?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sent me a message.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. Because I remember him reading his thing and talking about how cute he was.
He is so cute. Hi, Michael.
But he wrote in and said, the Cinderella dress was the biggest hate crime. Shows the lack of gayness behind the scenes. Shocking behavior.
Oh, Michael. Cute and witty.
So yeah, that was fun. But let's go over the results. So the one with the least amount of votes was the Forget Me Not Bottom Right jean jacket. Because, yeah, I was thinking of the other jean one when I picked that. This is definitely the least offensive of the bunch. So only got 24 votes, 13%. Then we had her Yeti sweater from San Francisco Dreamin' that got 39 votes, 21%. And now here we go, the top two. Ooh. So the runner-up was the Cinderella dress, 59 votes, 32%. And your pick, San Francisco, won at 34%. It was so close, though, 32% and 34%. So one was 59 votes, and the winner was 62 votes. So they were so very close.
I feel justified because I felt unseen because the two of you thought the Cinderella was so bad, and it was pretty bad, but not as bad as whatever the fuck that top that she was wearing.
So, yeah, I think I think it's because of the idea of Cinderella already that we have that kind of makes it go lower than, you know what I mean? Yeah, but yeah, the amoeba thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one, but let us continue with this totally charmed book, Silencia. was like, I didn't say anything.
I wasn't talking.
So this is section 5, entitled "The Men." A man.
The man.
Yeah, they're men, and it says I'll read the introduction for this section. It says they're men, Leo, Cole, and other transients. For all their astonishing beauty, the Halliwells have a heck of a time holding on to men. Even the loyal Leo goes AWOL on a regular basis. Is it because they'll always be more loyal to the sisters than to their misters? Poor Cole. Or is it because their misters come and go, but their sisters are forever?
Aw.
How about you start, Sean?
All right. And I think you always want me to read these parts, and I always forget to, so I'm going to actually do it this time. All right. This one is called Why Can't This Witch Get Hitched? Or Girl Power and the Men Who Can't Handle It by Maggie Shane. And our little synopsis says it's not easy for a tradition-bound man to commit to a woman who can turn him into a newt. Maggie Shane argues that it's this imbalance of power that ruins the Halliwells' love lives, not the fact that they keep falling for bad risks like demons, dead men, and baseball players. So, Maggie kind of introduces it as saying that she likes to predict where relationships are going. So naturally, she watched Charmed, like trying to predict what men are right for our sisters. And one thing that she said that automatically I was like, bitch, please. She's like, but watching the sisters and how much sex they do have is not believable. I'm like, really? People having sex in a Aaron Spelling show is not believable to you? Fuck off. Like,
Right.
do you not know what you're watching? Bitch, please. But she, and I kind of like copy and pasted a few quotes just because I think she explained it better than I could try to summarize. When the yearning yet resisting couple finally get together for keeps, the story is over. So we've heard this idea from other writers in this series, but she's basically saying, of course, they're not going to find their happily ever after because then there's no more story. Which, I mean, may or may not be true. Also, the sisters are too strong-willed to ever have a long-term monogamous relationship. Maggie says, in witchcraft, God is most often goddess. While logically we know there are male witches, society views witchcraft as a female thing. The girl power embodied by witchcraft is so incredibly threatening to men that they launched an all-out attack on it during the witch hysteria that gripped Europe and the US 400 to 600 years ago. Some refer to that time as the Woman's Holocaust. Some claim up to 9 million women may have been murdered. She goes on to kind of talk about once Andy finally accepted Prue and her power, he had to die because there was nowhere else for his character to go, because that was like the ultimate thing for a male character to accept a woman. She talks about in Lost and Bound, Cole put a ring on Phoebe's finger, causing her to lose all power and become a housewife. Meanwhile, Leo wanted to bind the powers of their unborn child, and Maggie says it's because he couldn't stand the thought of another powerful woman in his house. Cole kept getting more demonic and powerful until Phoebe had to defeat him. So her thing is saying like Cole and Leo specifically as men were threatened by the woman being more powerful than them, so they kept having to one up their powers in order to be better than the woman. And she even goes on to say like Leo purposely got Piper pregnant in order to like hold her back because he was losing power. But then it didn't work, so that's why he became an elder to gain more power over Piper. That was really hard to go through without just screaming.
I know.
This one so fucking much.
My God. Oh my God, this lady. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, so let's break it down.
Well, and real quick before you start, I do realize like we are queer men speaking about this, so I understand we do have a reverence for a woman that may be different from a typical cis male gender, but still, like, I don't know. she does this thing in her writing that drove me crazy, because on the one hand she'd be like, men hate women, men are threatened by women, ooh, look how hot Cole is without his shirt
Right.
off, oh, I'm drooling, and I'm like, girl, you choose a side.
Yeah, it was so hypocritical. So she says men in society can handle powerful women, and she says, and are in fact the weaker sex.
Mhm.
She claims Andy died because he couldn't face the notion that his girlfriend was more powerful than him. So that was his reason for dying. He's like, I have to die because I cannot take it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'm kidding, kinda.
Yeah. Ugh.
Another woman wet for Cole. But then I put wet for Chris, and also wet for Avatar Leo. And like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. She claims Cole had it made when Phoebe was a housewife. It's just what he wanted. I'm like, no, actually, he hated it so much that he tried to fight it every turn he got. So that was a weird thing to come to.
That drove me crazy too, because if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
if I remember right, the ring was Grams's ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was Grams's spell that caused it, so he didn't
Yeah.
do it intentionally. Okay.
He had no idea about it, and when he did find out about it, he's like, "What's wrong with you? I don't like this. I don't like this. You know." That was his
Yeah.
whole shtick. That was the whole episode. How did you not get that? But no, it it was just so crazy. I'll admit that I enjoyed her playful nudge writing style here because it was kind of fun to read. It was very lighthearted, and I'm glad she's all for all powerful women. That should be
Mm-hmm.
you should be celebrated. But yeah, I do feel her allegations about men are extreme. I get it. Like, history is full of men who can't handle powerful women. Look at Brad Kern. So perhaps some of his sexism did trickle into the show, but Maggie here is claiming that every man in Charmed is trying to whip their dick out to say, I'm more powerful than you, every single time they do anything. That's what she's saying here.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are going way over the top. Yeah, it's almost like a tyrannical interpretation.
Yeah. And one part I really didn't agree with, more so than most of it, is her look at Leo, like saying
Yeah.
that he became an elder to have more power over Piper. But really, when he became an elder, that took him away from Piper. If anything, that had the opposite effect. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't there to lord over Piper even more.
It's so weird. Like, I guess if this is how she watches the show, that's not what I see. Like, oh, I'm gonna get you pregnant because that means you can be like taken care of, and I can do all the work. So she even said that he told them that he was a white letter so that he could reveal that he was the boss of them. I'm a white letter. That means I'm the boss of you. Like, that was, all of his reasons for everything were to show that he's a man and better.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is if she is this mad at Leo in the original Charmed, if she saw, I would love to see her take on the reboot,
Oh.
because in that one, I don't remember his name, but their White Lighter basically holds all the power and literally like bosses them around. Like, he's the most
Oh.
powerful character of that show.
Okay, if that's the case, then that goes all against their feminist claims
Yep.
too. That, oh my god, I'm glad I never watched that show. I can't. Okay, goodbye. Reboot Charm. But yeah, so yeah, but then this is Maggie saying how much she hates men, but then also saying how horny she was by them all the time. And like, a true feminist strives for the duality and equal treatment of both genders. And here it felt like a biased soapbox of past trauma. Like, I don't know. Hated it.
Yeah, because for me, I like to consider myself as a he they, because I like to embrace
Yeah.
my feminine. I like to like wear purses and wear feminine things, and I like to revel in like the power that both sexes offer. I'm not gonna sit and say like one's better than the other or one should be celebrated more than the other. Like, I want to find the
Mm-hmm.
equality and duality, and like, yeah, women are more sensual and seductive and have more power, I feel, over men, because we're big drooling idiots when it comes to a beautiful thing. So that's like definitely something women have over men, and I think that's awesome and to be celebrated. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, woman dumb, women have boobies.
No,
Woman,
right.
like, that's what I took Maggie's thing as.
And then she's like, "Oh, Cole with his shirt off. Oh, Chris is so." She's like, "I hated him as a baby. They need to bring back a grown-up Chris." Like, it
Yeah.
was so horny.
So there's no value in him as a character unless he's pleasant to look at. Like, fuck you, Maggie.
Oh my god. On top of that, I do have 3. Put that in my canonical hats of this essay.
Canonical.
So,
I think I know one.
okay, what is it?
Well, it's kind of a here or there thing. She mentions, actually, a few of these mention how Phoebe had to eventually vanquish Cole. I'm like, he came back and Piper had to vanquish Cole. Wasn't Centennial Charmed his final vanquish?
Yeah, but it wasn't Piper.
Or not
Was it-
Piper. Sorry, you're right, Paige. I was saying
But-
Piper.
Paige came back to Centennial Charmed. She met with the sisters, and Phoebe actually did throw the potion that time too. And that because they're holding hands together, they had to be charmed again, and then she threw the potion.
Mm-hmm.
But even the first time, it was the 3 of them together again, and Phoebe was the one that put the crystal. So it was always the Phoebe's final act that ended up doing it, even though they did it as a trio. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, but that was not one of them. But good. I'm cool that we had this conversation.
You're welcome.
She said that you can get your kinky fetish whistle wet by watching season 5's Stormy Leather. That's a whole thing. She says season 5's Stormy Leather. First of all, not the actual name of the episode. Stormy
I don't
Leather
think
was the
so.
WB title. It was A Wrong Day's Journey into Right. And that was in season 6, episode 20, not season 5. So, made big mistake there twice. And the author, Maggie, was also confused because she claimed part of Chris returning was to ensure that he was born. And she's going on, she's like, this makes no sense whatsoever. I'm like, you totally missed the point. He came to stop Wyatt, had nothing to do with him being born. It was him coming to the past that changed the circumstances of his own birth, but his birth was never the reason for his time travel. And she mixed that up. So, okay. And then she says elders and avatars are pacifists. They're not. Only white lighters are given that restriction. Elders and avatars don't put that on themselves, even though it makes us think that they would be, but they are not pacifists. So, canonical.
Take that, Maggie Horny Shane.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next essay. There's 4 essays in this, by the way. So this is 2 of 4. It's called Home Improvement in Magic Land. I added that. Tim, the Toolman Taylor. And this is by Vera Nazarian. It says, it's difficult to tell what criteria the Halliwells use to choose their men. At first glance, they appear to be tall and breathing. But Vera Nazarian says they're smarter than that. They're choosing men who are good with their hands. Okay. And that's our beautiful Jennifer Cruz who writes these little introductions. She's another one of the
That's
so
how she got her name on the cover.
yeah. So this talks about it starts with 3 quotes from Ordinary Witches, season 7, episode 11, about messes. And she describes the typical daily battle in the manor and the damage the house takes. And she says, Leo is an instant handyman and he does the best work. All good men were good with their hands. All the good men. So she's like, Cole was crap at it. Jason was crap at it, so they were terrible men. But Dan was a construction worker, so that's why there was a love triangle. Because they're both handymen.
Yeah.
And she's like, if only Phoebe and Paige break something, they could find that good man. just break something in the house and call the repair guy, and they'll find their Mr. Right. She says, magic itself by nature is to fix things. I thought that was kind of a cool metaphor there. And she says the handyman should be the next archetype of storytelling, and you can use it all the time. She uses magic as a romantic metaphor too. It's like, when magic is flashy and sparkly and dangerous, that means it's a romantic crush. But then the magic sticks around to heal us and sweep up the debris. When it does that after the craziness and just stays around longer, that's what really establishes the relationship with it. So she's like, oh yeah, so sweet. Oh, I thought that was interesting. She says the safety spell in Thank You for Not Morphine, when they said it for their father, she thinks it had a lingering effect that brought Leo into their lives. I'm like, interesting. Like, I mean, there's nothing that doesn't say that, so sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I thought this essay was cute, and I could entertain the metaphor of it all, but in the end, it was just kind of dull. It's more like a sweet observation of the essay.
I had the same thought. Yeah, by the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, you didn't really say much. You just pointed some cute things out, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. It
wasn't
anger me
offensive.
like Maggie.
No, I wasn't angry. I'm just like, oh, that's sweet, kind of blah, but sweet.
Yeah. All right.
I have one canonical error in here too, though.
Canonical.
Tell me.
She said Leo can bring a dead charmed one back to life, but he can't heal the dead. I've heard that said in another one where they implied that it's like they can heal you when you're on the verge of death, but if you're actually dead, no. Otherwise, Prue would have come to
Yeah.
life real fast.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna mention that. Yeah, like I couldn't remember a time any one of them actually died. Like I remember Piper got like really close one time, but she didn't actually die.
Right. So it's a very key distinction.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I don't know if you know this, but Good Witches Need Love Too by Allison Kent. They're young, they're beautiful, they date hot guys. You'd think the Hollowells lived in a chick-lit kind of world. Allison Kent studied season 1 and found that each of the sisters approached her love story differently, but they all ended up the same way, teary-eyed, undefeated, and supported by their sisterhood. So, a few of these essays mention chick-lit too, which is something I hadn't really heard before.
Well,
so the idea
I
is
feel like it was from the 4th essay that we're gonna read, and because she edited it, she just took that tone, that term, and used it for this other essay.
That's
Jennifer
a good
Cruz.
point. Yeah. So chick-lit, if anybody doesn't know, it's apparently like this new type of romance novel where it's more like female empowered. So the female may not end up with the man at the end, but she will end up better. So it's more just like an empowering romance, whatever strengthens the female lead.
Chicklet. We should call it C-lit.
Seal it. You're naughty.
I know. I'm just reading my clit over here. I'm just reading my clit.
Yeah, I'm reading my clit. I need some time with my clit.
Oh my gosh.
So what Allison, I'm gonna be honest right now, I didn't take a whole lot of notes for this one.
That's okay. I mean, do what you do.
So Allison talks about how Phoebe is tons of fun and she wants lots of heat and no strings attached. She talks about how Piper wants romance, long slow kisses, late night talks, candlelight, and she loves love. And Phoebe learns to kind of stop going after the men in her sister's lives because she dated Rex. She apparently was after Prue's fiance at one point. Like, she wants Leo just because Piper does. So she learns to just like settle down and have fun and not worry about a man for now. Once she learned the lessons about herself, she turned her attention to bettering herself and her bond with her sisters. And she also kind of played matchmaker between Andy and Prue and Piper and... Was it Leo? No. It was somebody else, right? In season 1?
Probably, what's his face? I forget his name now.
In season 1,
Josh.
you kind of get... Josh. Okay. Piper, she always finds unavailable men, whether they be a warlock, ghost, or white lighter, and Prue needed like an alpha, which of course Andy fit best since he was the best renter and lover, and a cop. So it just talks mostly about, it focuses on the fact that it talks about how in season 1 each sister kind of gets what they want in love, but realize it's not really what they wanted. Like, Phoebe gets like the guy who just wants to have tons of protected sex with her, but then that gets boring real quick because they don't connect on any other level. And Piper gets the helpless romantic, but then it's kind of the same thing. Like, he's just kind of boring because he's just obsessed with her. The only one who really has like a good relationship in season 1 is Prue, but even then, it's weird because Prue's hiding being a witch, and Andy was hiding being divorced. So they all kind of find what they want and realize it's not what they need, and then they bolster each other through being sisters.
Yeah,
Just like in Chick Lit.
yeah. So I think it's important to note that this essay analyzed season 1 specifically, so the romantic choices and the girls' individuality as women in love or their relationships through season 1. I did like that they made the note about Phoebe kind of being a little bit more like very quick to jump in bed with men, and they always ended up being the wrong ones. But then when she switched focus to her, you can see that she did stick with that, because when she met Brent in Out of Sight, there was obviously an attraction there, but she's kept it professional still, which was kind of a cool thing for her. Andy was technically the trope of Chick Lit. He was both the alpha male protector and the best friend turned lover combined. And she said that being an old flame allows them to skip the awkwardness and get right into a deeper connection, which was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like that she highlighted that the Prue and Andy repeated park scene in Deja Vu all over again was like an opportunity to get things right between them, to tell each other how they really felt, and la 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 la. So it was nice. Again, another sweet but ultimately uneventful essay. It didn't tell us anything new.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, yeah, I've watched season 1. I know. I've formed all these judgments. Like, it didn't really point out anything.
No. We were offered no hot takes or analysis. Anybody who watched the show knew all of this. But she knew her facts. There was nothing wrong, and it was a nice overview of season 1. So, sure, but pointless. All right. Here's our final essay of the day. Witchlit, or Clit, or Sealit, or whatever. Witchlit, A Season of Romance by Catherine Spangler. And this one, like the last essay was about season 1, this one talks about season 4. And she makes it her mission to tell you why season 4 is like a romance novel. And these are the reasons
What? You gross. No, it's not. I hate romance. Oh
my gosh. Season 4 will always be, for many of us, the season that approached greatness. Phoebe as Queen of Hell alone was worth the price of admission. Catherine Spangler thinks she knows why this year was such a bright one. Taken as a whole, it was a great romance novel. And then she's like, I know me saying that is kind of crazy, and you probably don't believe me, but let me tell you why this is so romantical. All right. And she goes, first she's like, this is what Chick Lit is. Chick Lit is about strong, sassy, contemporary women, and Witchlit is the same, but with magic. And she says season 4 is like a romance novel because romances are character-driven. Romances have conflict and character growth. Romances focus on relationships. Romances are about emotion. Romances are about empowerment. Romances have a positive ending, and it's all about the magic of love. And she gave examples throughout the show about what they fit into those. But
Can I ask you something real quick?
Go ahead.
Going by these tenets, so wouldn't Inside Out be considered a romance?
Let me tell you, this is where I'm going with this. Her argument for romances are so basic that most of her key points are true and required for any piece of media to be good. This is what everything we watch has. All these tenets are in everything. So they are not exclusive to the romance genre. I'm sorry to tell you, lady.
So basic.
And she tries to rationalize that other genres focus more on plot and not characters and not emotion. I'm like, dude, everything has to have good characters for people to be invested. Like,
Right.
this is such a fluffy essay. Like, based on the logic presented here, she might as well argue that Charmed is a TV show. Duh. I'm sorry I'm being a bitch, but like, really?
Yeah, it drove me crazy, especially that she started off the way she did, so strong. Like, no, 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 hear me out. I know it sounds crazy. It's romance. I'm like, no, it's a show like focused on three women. Of course, it's gonna have a romance in it. Like, it's not that crazy.
Yeah, they focus on conflict and character growth and emotion and empowerment and seriously, the most generic
So does
general.
Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God. So there you go. I. So yeah, this book, this section of the book. Anyway, let me give you a canonical error.
Canonical.
She went on a astrological signs. She's like, I think Piper is a Taurus, Phoebe
I
is an
knew it.
Aries, Paige is a Pisces, Leo is a Libra, and Cole is a Scorpio. All of them those were incorrect. Except for maybe Cole, because Cole is unknown. We don't know his horoscope, his astrological sign. We don't know the month he was born. But Piper is either a Leo or a Gemini, depending on which birth date you believe. Phoebe is a Scorpio, Paige is a Leo, and Leo is a Taurus. So, yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts about anything we read so far or talked about?
This was the weakest section. Like, yeah, like we said, Maggie's infuriated me. The last one didn't infuriate me. It was just laughable. And the other two were basic. So, like, sorry,
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah, I am so disappointed most by this group of essays. Because I was hoping for essays talking about the role guys played on Charmed, maybe exploring what it means to be a man and either falling or fighting in against the social tropes, falling into those either way. I think it would have benefited from at least one male writer here, because instead we just got a bunch of romance novel authors who love to hear themselves talk.
Yeah.
One who thinks that most men are just natural misogynists and everything else was just exploring things that didn't call for an essay. Sorry. None of these essays even really talked about manhood. They all approached this from like a romance novel lens. All they could talk about was love and sex, their looks, and their relationship to the sisters. But like, what if you explored the men as characters first? You could have talked about the romances they had, or the bachelor groups that were formed, or how their father struggled with where he fit in. What about raising male children? The more I think about it, it's actually very infuriating that they didn't really focus on their subject matter here.
Yeah. And like, I wish they talked a little bit about the fact that Leo did gain a lot of power. And to me, Leo is very much a metaphor of a father doing what he needs to support his family, but having to leave his family in order to do so. And then the fact that he sacrificed, he fell from grace in order to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, we take the trope of what we think women should do and we apply it to Leo. Like, that says a lot. And I would have loved to see more about him as a stand-up guy for doing that.
Yeah. One of I think the first one actually like complimented Avatar Leo for like doing the right thing. She's like, he sacrificed himself and chose to be mortal again. That was very, she did mention that how she liked about that of him, but then went on about how she hated men still. So
yeah. But they're so fun to look at.
So yeah. So that's all I got for this section. So thank God it's over. Hopefully the last part of this book will be better. But first, let's talk about our tip for future white letters.
Oh, we're really just messengers? Guides? Think of us as guardian angels for good witches.
Tips for future white letters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
What is your moral of this one?
So it really struck out to me about all four of these is how these four women all had very different views on women and what they should be. So I would say, like, stop focusing so much on what you think other women should be and accept them for what they are, and maybe look outside of that to, like you said, like, this could have been about the men or how these men supported their woman or about so much more than just kind of attacking the sisters and attacking their actions. It really reminded me of America Ferrera in Barbie and how she goes on that long rant.
Yeah.
That just kept playing in my mind as I was reading these.
Nice. Yeah. So, very good. Yeah. I think mine is similar because, I mean, it's easy to come to the conclusions we did. So my tip is, well, let me say, I know there is so much history of women's suffrage, and I understand how women can be angry and feel the need to fight for themselves because there still is a lot to fight for, and there's a lot of still horrible opinions by douchey people. But people need to realize feminism aims to end sexism, exploitation, and oppression of all genders. All genders should have equal rights and opportunities, and all gender experiences, identities, and strengths should be respected. So, by belittling and generalizing men and reducing them to romantic fodder is actually anti-feminist. So,
True.
if you're going to be a woman and you want to be an advocate for women, you need to do better than what these writings did.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because we are all in this together. Ta-da.
And none of us chose to be who we are. Even if you're transgender, you were born
Right.
knowing that you were born as a certain gender or meant to be. So, like, I'm not going to belittle someone because it's something they had no control over. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
they are their own person, no matter if they have a penis, vagina, or, whoever they are.
Exactly. So, ta-da. So the last thing for this week is our P is for
My
poll. Talk about a man. Well, is that a gingerbread cookie? Anyway, P is for poll.
Piper. You mean it's just you and Prue, huh?
Phoebe? Phoebe, you there?
And a big hello to you too, Penny.
Come on, Patty. The rest is up to them.
Paige. My name is Paige. Another P, imagine that.
P is for poll.
What essay would you have rather read? And I made like different categories. So the 4 categories are Andy and Daryl bromance. Cute.
Oh,
We have Victor, a mortal dad. We have Leo and Cole, naughty or nice. And then Wyatt and Chris, brotherly love. I think they're all good options, but I don't know what I don't know what would I pick.
I'm going to say brotherly love, only because I feel like there's so much story not explored with Wyatt and Chris, and especially like that dynamic. I think it kind of explores a lot of different dynamics with Wyatt struggling not to turn evil and like Chris struggling to like make sure he doesn't turn evil. There's a lot of story and a lot of information there.
I mean, that's really the catalyst for the spin-off series that everybody wanted for so long. Although I feel like if they did do that spin-off series route, we would have had Melinda in there too, which would have add a whole other dimension.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that option a lot. I mean, I chose this, so of course they're all good. I'm going to go with something different just because. I'm going to say, I'm going to go with Andy and Daryl bromance because I would like to see their relationship like more than what because we know that they had a very close knit thing, and we know how they bantered off each other, and how Daryl was like the skeptic when Andy was kind of like, "Hey, we're cool," but they had this admiration, and I feel like they did have a very strong love for each other, and it would have been cool to like explore that. Maybe I want to see the episode where Andy comes to Daryl's house for dinner, and greets the kids and eats with Sheila, and
That'd be cute. I like
yeah. So that is the end for this week. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Sean Perret on Instagram or TikTok. There you'll also find links to all of our projects, videos from Solving for X, or X-Men podcast, where we're currently on X-Men Evolution, and Kevin's trying his damnness to get me to like it, and my book, Witches Brew, A Dream of Waking, on Amazon.
Yeah. And you can follow me at KGZ87 on Instagram, or follow this podcast at Words of the Witches on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, Words of Witches on Twitter. And next week, we'll be covering the last section of this book, the final section of this book, their viewers. And so we'll talk about us, the audience, the people who watch Charmed and love Charmed, and what attracts us to it, and who likes to watch it, and all that goodies. So hopefully we have some fun stuff next week to chat about. Until then, Spellworders, your destiny still awaits.